Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
We're gonna carry on and plan the sequel, because let's face it, baby, these days, you gotta have a sequel.
And welcome back to Micro Queers. It's our queer movie review, and I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we are discussing Jeff Drummond's queer thriller, We Kill Them All, out now on VOD.
Yeah, so, okay, folks, if you have not seen this one, here is the basic logline. So we have Megan, who is played by Chloe McClay, and she is visiting her criminal father, Lee, who is played by Kent Allen, at a secluded resort. And she decides she's going to bring her girlfriend, Lane, who is played by Emma Newton, along. This is also happening over the holidays, so this is technically Christmas queer horror. So the reunion ends up taking a dark turn when dangerous figures from her father's past, led by Jimmy, who is played by Leo Fafard, emerge, and they force the women into a desperate struggle for survival.
Yes, they do. So I guess right off the bat, Joe, would you recommend this movie?
This is a firm... I'm not sure if I'm recommending this. Like, I'm kind of halfway there. So if the logline sounds enticing to you, it's like, give it a shot. But also, I don't think I can wholeheartedly recommend it.
Yeah, so I'm going to add a tiny bit of context, and then I'll tell you my recommendation. But, like,
Okay.
My mother-in-law was staying with us for a week last week. And, you know, my husband and I both work. And so sometimes, like, she was on the couch watching TV. And I would walk out, and I'd be like, what are you watching? And she's like, I don't know, it's something on Prime. And I'm like, okay, but it was all movies of this ilk, like these kind of like low budget, like offshoot thrillers that like hit VOD like 5 times a week.
Right. Okay.
And so it's kind of one of those where like if you're in the kitchen cooking and you want a background movie, like this is passable. And so I am, I'm kind of in like, this is a 2.5-star film for me. Like I am a slight recommend if you have time and you want to, but it's not a mandatory recommend.
Yeah. Like if you're looking for queer representation, the central figures are a couple and you get to watch them battle for their lives. And if that sounds great, then you might like this. My main issue with this, and I do think I'll remember this because I think there's actually a couple of fairly decent set pieces. Yeah. And I don't mind the girls. But I really struggled with these villains. Like, all of the men in this movie are kind of Garbaggio, and I know that's the point, but they are one and the same Garbaggio.
So I fully agree with you. And here's the thing. Like, I was watching this, and because you kind of clued me into this before I watched it, saying, oh, the bad guy's dialogue is something. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? It is the rapiest, most homophobic dialogue I've heard in a movie in a very long time. And here's the thing. This is where I'm kind of like, well, this part of it, the bad guy part of it, feels like it's out of an exploitation movie. And I think that's fine. The problem is the other side of the movie is anything but that. So it causes this kind of war of like, sensitive queer, well, maybe not sensitive queer stuff, but just like not exploitation queer romance storyline / survival thriller with this exploitation, like super rapey. And again, like there isn't a sexual assault in this movie. We almost get there, but
like very nearly.
But we are talking about it non-stop to the point where I wasn't necessarily entertained by it. But again, if this went full exploitation, I think some of this bad guy stuff would have been more palatable.
I agree. Yeah, like it's very firmly a thriller. Like we're not seeing these women get tortured. Like they're tied up and they're threatened a lot. Like the dialogue is kind of the worst that you will get. But we either needed to take that further or we needed to pull it back. My other big thing is like, I think I could have dealt with one character speaking like this or acting like this the entire time, but then you need to have either levels or other characters who are offsetting it. Like I kept expecting there's one guy who's younger in this trio of villains named Cody. And initially you think, oh, he's going to be less criminal. He might even try to help the girls and then he'll get caught in the middle of this conflict. And like, no, he's saying the exact same things as the other guy. So we could have just had one villain who's doing all of this and spouting all this bullshit. But instead it feels so repetitive.
But interestingly enough, though, we have a female writer on this screenplay in Nicole Field. And so I found that very interesting because I would not have guessed that when I was watching the film.
No.
I think my other issue is, so I do like Megan and Lane as characters, and I think Maclay and Newton do good work with them. However, there's a weird... Okay, so I'm just going to go into this. So
yeah, do it.
We meet them, and Megan is at a office Christmas party, and her girlfriend Lane shows up, taking her by surprise, and she does not introduce her as her girlfriend. She introduces her as her roommate, and so that's familiar territory. Totally get it.
Sure, yeah.
Then, once the siege happens, Lane, the one who is kind of your stronger queer character, like out and proud, she has no
agency, and she becomes a punching bag for these villains the entire movie.
And it turns to Megan to become the hero, and I don't know. There was just some really murky messaging in that. I think the intent was, look, like she's accepting her queerness through this horrific ordeal, but I don't like that Lane pays the price for it.
Yeah. Because even as you said it, I thought, okay, this is a bit of a classic narrative, right? It's the person who's a little less comfortable with their sexuality, who loves their partner, but not publicly. And then with these men, there is no hiding that, right? Like they're immediately outed as girlfriends, hence the derogatory, homophobic language throughout the film. But yeah, you're right. It's Megan learning to assert herself as a queer woman defending Lane, and you think that sounds great, but in the movie it just means that you're watching Lane get punched, Lane get kicked, Lane get strung up with barbed wire. And sure, she does get the killing blow on Jimmy at the end, so she gets some of that power back, but it truly does feel like until then, let's just watch this very proud queer woman who has been very assertive and solid in her identity get the ever-loving shit kicked out of her.
I don't think this is the intent, but I almost got you thought she was tough and good. Look how she is when she's actually under pressure. And that is a much darker read that I don't think it's the intent, but I do think it's easy to pick that up.
Yeah. Ooh, that's rough.
And so there was a point, though, in the film, when I realized what we were doing, not this part, but when we were going to be, two girls under siege for the rest of the movie. And I was like, oh, cool. It's going to be kind of like an R-rated lesbian Home Alone, where we're like these girls are coming out and we're trapping these killers and taking them off one by one.
Yeah.
And then when I realized, that's not what we are doing here. I mean, we do kill them off one by one, but it's just Megan, because Lane is out of commission or being chased for all of this. She gets chased and caught
so many times.
Immediately.
Yeah, to the point where the movie's not particularly long. It is a little bit longer than I expected. I think it's about an hour 40, but I think you could probably cut maybe 10 minutes out of this and just have a couple of more sustained chase sequences, because every time they start to get away, they're just immediately apprehended, which is maybe truer to life, but also cinematically not as satisfying.
Well, and also because we're leaving out a cool idea, I think, is that this entire movie takes place in this mountain resort. And
yes, and it's abandoned. So it's basically women versus villains.
Yes, but I feel like we don't, we're in the kitchen a lot, or we're in the exterior a lot. We're not going through these rooms, and I was like, you have this. I'm assuming you're shooting on location. I don't think we're building these sets, and so
I don't think so. We don't have the budget for that.
I'm just surprised we don't use this more. And the only thing I could think of is maybe it's maybe this was an active resort, and they could only film at certain times. I don't.
Maybe either that, or it was the budget is so minuscule. We're shooting for only a couple of days, and as a result we said, okay, stage the lobby, stage the ballroom, the kitchen, and then a couple of outdoor scenes.
Yes. And this is all just peppered with dialogue smells like dyke pussy in here.
Oh boy. Yeah. Like, I really could have handled it if it was a little bit more isolated, or like if there was like, that these men are going to try something vulgar or sexual assaulty because they're presented as that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
But just hearing it ad nauseum throughout the movie, I was like, I know it's meant to be difficult, but it got to the point where I either started to laugh because it was so ridiculous, or I was just like, this is intolerable and I don't know how much more I can take of it.
No, I'm actually really glad you mentioned the comedy, unintentional comedy first, because I felt this at a certain point. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is not real dialogue.
Yeah. Like, one of the guys says, I need to send you back to her. Oh, woman. And I was like, okay, I could see someone who is a bit rapey saying something like that, like especially to a lesbian, because we have heard this from, misogynistic men who think, oh, well, it's just because you've never had my dick. That's why you don't like dick. And you're just like, no, that's not how it works.
It's just like, I don't know. I agree with you. I think if one of the guys was like this and we kill him either first or like he's like the main one we have to kill last, sure. But like, it's just so one note. Like everything these guys say is, I'm going to rape you. You're a dyke. Pussy, pussy, pussy. And that's all it is. And again, like I think you're right. It's actually a 94-minute movie. So it's not even hour 40, but like,
okay. Feels longer.
Yeah, well, I also think because the first act of this movie goes on for, I think, a lot. I think it takes too long to get to the inciting incident.
Yeah, because we have to do stuff with Megan's father. So he's trying to recover from a life of criminality. So he's going straight, working at this resort, kind of getting it ready for guests and that kind of stuff. And then we have to see him try and fail to escape these guys from his past. And then he dies. And then the girls show up. And part of me thinks, you could have actually had the girls show up sooner and had some scenes with him and Megan. And then everything goes to hell, and I think that would have felt a bit more seamless. Either that, or maybe even like just get rid of this guy, like first thing.
And I'm making a brief tangent, but like it's also some lazy screenwriting when it comes down to Megan's telling Lane about this scavenger hunt her dad used to take her on. I'm like, the magpie, and it's like, I wonder if that's going to come back later, and it does.
Chekhov's a wooden figure. Yes.
I was like, okay, like, of course they find the money. Like, sure, it's a happy ending. It's great, but it's also just like, and we get the holiday party, and Megan introduces Lane as her girlfriend, but I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, like it's a decent bracketing device, and you understand, okay, the girls are going to stay together, and yes, they have all this money. I have some pretty significant questions about, hey, we murdered 3 men, because yes, all the villains do perish by the end of the film, but it's like, then the girls just take the money and walk away without reporting the crimes or even giving a statement. I was just like, okay, I guess.
Because let's not forget there's another dead body, well, besides the father, because Jimmy also kills that woman who comes in to scope out the place for the investors. And again, that was such a like, he just strangles her. I was like, okay, like,
I mean, he strangles and then kicks her to death, and we actually get to see the body, and the FX work on this body looks really good because he has totally crushed in her face.
Yeah, absolutely. Not that this isn't a character, because we only met her for 2 seconds before she dies, and she feels like, oh god, again, if I'm not being generous, this just feels like, okay, we need to get a woman killed in here.
Yes, yeah, because we're not going to kill our 2 protagonists, so let's have somebody else come in here. But I will say, I mean, she's going to die immediately because she's a woman walking into a dangerous situation. She's like, hi, I'm here to do the tourism walkthrough. Like, oh, honey, you're dead. But I kind of didn't mind it because I felt like we needed to see these men kill someone.
Yes, absolutely. But I will say, though, there was a moment where I did actually think we might kill Lane. So I think that is a success on the movie's part, because I think in a lot of films like this, you'd be like, oh, well, they're never going to kill her because plot armor. But I didn't always have that here. So on that level, I do think it was a success.
Okay. Question, did you like any of these action set pieces? Because we do get one set in a pool that I quite liked.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the chase scenes are kind of, maybe the earlier chase scenes are kind of fun when we're still kind of exploring the landscape. I feel like as the movie goes on and as Lane gets more and more captured, we're just limiting it to like very like single locations.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wish they had used this, because we come to see it's quite a large resort. So there are opportunities to explore some different areas.
When we get the final shot where we're there, I mean, not the final shot, but like the final shot of the resort sequence where like they're walking off into the sunrise, I was like, wait, we had this whole thing?
It's huge. And maybe you don't want to just be like, oh, I'm going to have them run down the hall and try to, I think at one point we tried to get into a hotel room and we managed to get through and then we had to jump out the window. So like there is that, but it's a very short sequence compared to where we spend most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. This is a passable thriller, but if you really want to dig into the messaging and implications of what it's saying, I think that's where it gets a little bit
yeah, it's a bit
rocky.
murky.
Yeah, just a little bit. But I mean, again, like I was going to say it's inoffensive. It's not always inoffensive, but
it's often offensive. But again, if you know going in, then I think you'll probably be mostly fine.
Yeah, but I mean, you won't lose any sleep if you don't catch this. But if you do catch it, it's not the worst thing you can see.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, everyone. Well, if you check this out, please let us know what you thought of it. But until next time, we can cross out, we kill them all.
Indeed. And cross out microqueers.